intro. All right, I'm a little rusty. It's been a couple weeks, but welcome, ladies, gentlemen, possums alike. Love everyone, all of you. Looking forward to week 14 this week. We got either you're in the playoffs or you're out of the playoffs, or you have a slight chance at making the playoffs, or you have a slight chance of getting kicked out of the playoffs. But we're gonna not be talking about weekly stuff because you know what? You're gonna set your lineup. You know your lineup. You know you've been playing Breece Hall all year. Maybe that knee's bothering him. Maybe it's not. You're going to play James Conner. But today we're going to do a little fun thing. We're going to kind of, and I know there's a lot of animosity in the fantasy community at Fantasy Receipts. I find them hilarious, mainly because I'm not that important to be ridiculed by them. And also, I guess I would just be like, yeah, man, that was fucking stupid. So today we're going to kind of do our own little fantasy receipt check and just hit some of the things that we're right about, everyone was wrong about, individually, us as a podcast. I know Joe's not here, but I think he'd agree with most of the things, and I'm sure he probably has some tag on along, but he's not here because you're hearing my voice. So Billy, I'm really looking forward to this one. This should be fun.
Yeah, and since he's not here, let's just bring up the fact that he said DJ Moore was a top 6 dynasty wide receiver, which I guess technically long term of things, he could still be right in the future, but for now he is dead wrong and it's dead hilarious. But we're gonna say all the things we're wrong about, so it's okay to bring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all good with eating my words. I've published article about something I'm wrong about, so I'm more than happy to eat those words and eat crow. But I will say, did he say DJ Moore was a top 6 at the end of last year, or did he say it at the beginning of this year, or both? Because I know he said at the end of last year.
End of last year when we did our
technically
dynasty rankings
was a
going
top
forward.
6. Technically was a top 6 at the time, but yeah, definitely not this year. So we will get to the Bears later. Don't worry. Trust me. Sorry, Joe, if you're going to listen to this later, you're going to not like the Bears talk, and maybe we'll just give you the times to skip over. But let's just jump right in. I'm gonna jump right in with something easy here. This is low hanging fruit. Sure. We got a guy who like I said, had a published article about. His name is Mr. Drake London. I was not right about him, but I was weirdly right about Kirk Cousins, and which was one of the driving factors of why I didn't want to draft Drake London anywhere. So Kirk, of course, has thrown for like 500 yards and had his 4 touchdown games, 3 touchdown games, but it has not translated to fantasy success whatsoever, or even really team success. So it's definitely absolutely right about Kirk Cousins. And I don't know if it's Achilles. I don't know if it's just mediocrity, because I feel like that's what he is he's had his great years and he's had his, he still throws for yards. Let's call him Jameis Winston years, which we just had the biggest Jameis game of all time, it looks like. Although I don't know, it seems like he's been doing that for years. Literally cost the game by pick sixes, and it's like he couldn't even just throw an interception; it had to be a pick six. So anyway, back to Cousins. Just not there. It's not right. Like there's a lot of like top 10 performances, but then there's also mixed in bottom performances from him. So not there, but Drake London, one of the most consistency fantasy wide receivers out there, especially with some of the big names dropping off, like Tyreek Hill. Obviously lost Tua, but also Tua's been here for a long time. So at the same time, like Tyreek should be a top 1, top 6 wide receiver, which is currently what Drake's at, is top 6 wide receiver, and pretty consistent while doing it. I mean, first game, bad. Everything else, pretty much double digits except for one game. So, I mean, that's what more can you ask for from a guy that you draft in the second round? And he is playing to the wide receiver 1 caliber at this moment. And I said he wasn't even wide receiver 2. So I'll eat those words. I'm down with that. I even published that in Fantasy Pros and thought it was a great idea at the time. So what are you going to do?
The thing is this is the Drake London that I thought he could be. Like you didn't, but I thought he could be like Cooper Kupp eventually, like that style of player, and kind of is the light version of that this year. I would like to see him play like with a better quarterback, which is actually what I wanted to mention. Do you think that they should bench Kirk Cousins and just go to Penix?
So it's really tough because, they're in the wild. They're in not the wild card, the division. They're division lead at the moment, so they technically own it. And I feel like it's one of those things. Like I don't know what their schedule exactly looks like. Let me see. Let's pull something up. Minnesota, no, you're going to want to play Cousins, right? Las Vegas, though, like maybe at halftime, just say, hey, we're going to switch to Penix at halftime, or not even say it and just do it. Like, I think that could be interesting. See what you got. I mean, I assume he's fully healed, ready to play at this point, right? Like, because he came
Yeah.
in, wasn't he injured off the start of the season, or was he just
I mean, a little banged up, but not. I mean, he could play.
okay? Well, I mean, don't you want to see what you got, right? I mean, I know Cousins is there locked up right now,
the
but it's
The
like,
problem with Kirk Cousins is he's not going to win you football games. He's shown that pretty obvious
yeah,
here. And the Bucks, despite everything going against them, are on their way to potentially making this. If they had a defense, the Bucks would be easily the best team in this division, but they don't. So uh, it's kind of unfortunate what's happened to them. But like, I just feel like if you're the Falcons, I know that you drafted Penix for this literal reason because you didn't know if Kirk Cousins was going to hold up through the whole season. You didn't know how good he was going to be. I think that they knew that Kirk was not 100%, and that's why they drafted Penix. Like that was what I
mm-hmm.
suspected there anyway, and this is kind of just proven that they may not have been sure about him from the jump, and I think they should get Penix out there. But I know this is a Drake London discussion, so I think Drake London's fine going forward. I think he's quarterback proof now.
Well, let's just put some numbers out there, right? Like they have 257 points scored on the year. That is 9 more than the Cowboys, who are 5-7, and they're
Yeah,
six and
that's kind of
six. I mean,
brutal.
there's a reason like their points against are 291 and they're up 257. The Bucks have scored 335 and they're up 296. So really, the Bucks have also just kind of gotten a little unlucky here and there, but the Bucks are the winner of this division, in my opinion. And also, like we can go ahead and talk about it. Why is Kyle Pitts not used ever? Like there is
Very
a
sparingly. There's one play a game where he's wide open for like a 40-yard pass, and then
it
they
hasn't happened
just
the
like
last 3 weeks. They've just not used them the
that's
last three
true.
weeks.
I just don't use them, and I don't really get why. Like it just, and you know what the biggest issue now is Jonnu Smith was on this team last year. He is now in Miami. He looks fantastic. He looks like one of the top tight ends
I
in the
think I think
league.
he actually.
So it's like if you get Pitts out of here, Pitts is probably like really good, and we're just never going to get to see it with the Falcons, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really sad. He was tight end 4 at one point on the year, and it was like really ugly, but like he did it. And I mean, the tight end scape, like as we've talked about all year, has been kind of weird, but he was doing fine. And then all of a sudden, the last few weeks, just not existent, not in the game plan. And I just don't know how you don't get that guy 5, 6 targets every game just to see. You never know the explosive plays. Mooney's obviously been great for them. I was actually in my same Fantasy Pros article. I did say go draft Mooney. He's way cheaper. And honestly, at least would have got you something, which is a good thing. But still, I'll eat my words. Anyway, let's switch gears here. And it's been, what, 8 minutes, and I haven't even talked about the Eagles. So I just need to talk about something real quick. And I'm not going to say the Eagles are good, and I told you guys, blah blah blah. Everyone panicked after the first 4 games, but they did. That's true. What I'm going to tell you is I was absolutely dead right about this defense. I drafted them, I think, in every team defense league that I'm in, which is unfortunately too many. It's 2, but that's too many in my opinion. But this defense is coming alive right now, and one of the best in the NFL, if not the best at this point. Hard to tell because there was some shaky growing pains with a lot of rookies, and especially in the secondary. But they've been without Slay for almost 4 games, and they're still doing it. They lost Brandon Graham just recently. Bryce Huff never even materialized as anything. So like we're missing pieces, and the defense still looks absolutely exhilarating, amazing. Sacks are coming in now. The defensive backs, Quinyon Mitchell might be the best corner in the draft at this moment, and
He
then Cooper
should probably be
DeJean's
the
not.
defensive rookie of the year, but I don't know if they're gonna. I know you know everybody hates the Eagles, so they're not gonna give it to him. But
Well, it's not even that. I just think it's hard to throw stats out for a corner who's not getting targeted that much. I mean, the percentage is great, but it's hard to be like, oh well, he didn't get 12 interceptions, so. But it's just amazing to see that the defense has really pulled it along, and I expect them to continue on here. So pretty excited about this, and also the offense is no slouch either. Obviously, Saquon Barkley. I guess we could say the Giants were wrong about Saquon Barkley, but that seems like low hanging fruit at this point.
I get what they were thinking of, like, well, we got to see what we have with Daniel Jones, but like This team is terrible. The Giants, they need everything changed.
They re-signed Daniel Jones twice, right? Like it just seems
I don't
like
know. I know
I
they
thought they signed
re-signed him
him.
once for sure.
I thought for some reason they signed him for like a 2-year deal, and then they signed him for another like 3 or 4 after that extension. Like I don't know. Regardless, they chose the wrong guy clearly. Who's Saquon actually has a chance to break the rushing record, single season rushing record, and he will with 107 yards beat the Eagles rushing record. So that will be pretty interesting. I'm hoping it's in 2 weeks when I'm in Pittsburgh watching the game, or in Philadelphia watching the game against Pittsburgh. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that I'm not going to add much more to your Eagles love. I can't believe we found a topic where you can talk about the Eagles, but
Had to.
here we are. We figured it out. So I'm just going to steer this ship into a different direction and talk about things I was right about, which I think collectively everyone was kind of right about this, but I do think that it needs to be mentioned that I never faltered, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Always thought he was a top 3 player, like top 3 wide receiver. Now, you couldn't have paid me to figure out that Terry McLaurin was going to be the wide receiver 2 right now, and Chase was the number 1. Like, I would have never guessed that in a million years, but St. Brown being top 3, that is exactly where I had him going into the season. He's proven that why. We'll get to another part of this offense later, but like he just built on what he did last year, and he just looks fantastic. And if you have him on your team, like you struck gold. And I don't know, he lasted until day 3 in that NFL draft. I still have no idea why. It makes no sense to me. But look, he's a league winner, and you drafted him probably later than other people got him. I mean, he was what 6th or 7th probably in most people's, but he would have been top 3 for me
I'm in
overall.
a lot of like running back heavy redraft leagues, and so he actually went a little later, like 8, 9, and I would have killed to have that as a pick. But yeah, no, Amon-Ra seemingly does it year in and year out, and it's wild that the doubt just continues. But literally, he's on pace to have the most touchdowns he's ever had in a season, and not to mention the yardage is still going to be there. So no, for fantasy, amazing. For the team, amazing. I don't know where that team would be without Amon-Ra, honestly. That was it week 1 where he just like didn't have a good week, and Jameson had a
Yeah.
really big week. Like
Yep.
so wild because people were like, "Oh, Amon-Ra's done. I knew it." I'm sure the fantasy community was just going toast, toast. He's not even good anymore. Jameson's going to take over. Jameson's actually had a really good year, but I don't think anyone can touch what Amon-Ra can do. Back to
Yeah.
McLaurin though. To circle back to that. I did tell you guys that McLaurin is a phenomenal receiver.
You
Never in
didn't.
my
I was about
never
to
in
say
my
you
right
did
mind
not say
would have said
wide receiver 2 in the league.
never. No, but I always said that guy gets way too much hate. Same with David Montgomery. I know it's not like a this year thing. Everyone knew David Montgomery was a person, but like McLaurin and David Montgomery were two of those people who went in the 5th and 6th round in rookie or in redraft leagues consistently, and people like almost didn't want him. Like they were just like, oh, I guess I'll take Terry McLaurin. This man, literally, I
That's
did tell you. I
usually
think
what happens with Terry McLaurin.
I did tell you if he gets his touchdown numbers up, he will be good, and he has definitely got those touchdown numbers up. Already got his career high in a season, and it looks like he's going for yards, receptions, and everything else as career highs. So amazing to see Terry McLaurin actually have a good year. I just wanted to talk about him. I like him. Good
No,
player.
well, before we steer off the Terry McLaurin thing, while we're here, what would you value him in Dynasty right now? Would he be like almost off limits, or would he be a guy that you would need a mountain to move to get him? Like where are you valuing him right now? Like going into next season, perhaps.
I don't think he's impossible to get. I think if I had him on my team, I wouldn't be really interested in trading him. But depending on what the offer was, like if somebody wanted to offer me someone younger, I would take that. But going into his age 30 season, got a quarterback who's going to be there for a long time, who clearly loves him. Hard to sell him, but like if the price was right, kind of thing, like I'm all about it. Like I'd say Drake London for McLaurin could be a fair swap at the moment. Like
Yeah,
I don't. I
I
mean,
guess that's true.
you got someone who can do what McLaurin can do, get a 70-yard touchdown in 6 games. Hard to pass that up, like because like Drake London, sure, consistency is great, but this is actually Drake London is the new Terry McLaurin. He's consistent
Just
and
on bad
yeah,
team.
it's just on a bad team, getting 6 catches for 60 yards, maybe a touchdown. that seems very Terry McLaurin-esque. Like if you look at his numbers, they don't blow away. Like 17, 18, 19, and PPR 19. Had a big game, obviously, against Tampa Bay. I think that was the 500-yard game. But like, I don't know. I think there's a world that you live in. You try to go get Terry McLaurin at this point because, like in Dynasty, like yes, it's all about the future, but it's also about winning. Like you don't want to just sit there and have like, well, I got futures. I'm gonna hope that Marvin Mims pays out next year. Like how many of those guys have you had that you've drafted in the second or third round that just rotted on your team that you finally dropped? I like A.T. Perry was one for me. I know he's like more of like a fourth rounder, but like really wanted him to be something, and then Saints cut him, and I think he's on Denver's practice squad or something. Like yeah. So
no, you're right. Yeah. So anyway, circling all the way back to where we started this, Amon-Ra, good wide receiver. All right. Before I get to my next player, I do want to mention something. I don't know. This podcast is just going to kind of be like a just intrusive thoughts podcast. I feel like
you don't have to apologize, man. Just tell people what we're thinking.
This is something that I think we were all right about, but I think it just needs to be stated again, just so that everybody knows it. But go get rookie wide receivers. So currently, Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are all top 24 wide receivers right now. They're all wide receiver 2. Brian Thomas is on the edge at 12, wide receiver 1. Go draft him next year. Like these guys were, other than Marvin Harrison, who was going in the second round, we know the inflated stats there. The other two were basically free guys, like late 6th, 7th round. Like
Brian Thomas was. Neighbors was not free.
He wasn't. I mean, you maybe third round for some people, but he was definitely fourth or fifth.
Yeah,
his value is crazy compared to that right now. Like
I mean, comparatively being wide receiver 1, they're both going to vault up the board. All three of them. Well, actually, I think Brian Thomas might not vault up the board. I think Neighbors and Harrison just completely vault up the board. Well, I guess Harrison was already there, so like second round guys. But I think Brian Thomas is the steal of next year's draft. I think everyone's going to forget because Jacksonville's team has just been completely terrible all year long. Everyone fell off. It's not even like, oh, Etienne's bad, but Tank Bigsby's great. It's like the whole team just fell apart in shambles. Trevor Lawrence just never looked decent. Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram were the only two bright spots, and Evan Ingram only played half the season. So yeah, I think Brian Thomas is one of those guys who's going to get, and they're going to attack another wide receiver that year. So everyone's going to be like, well, in free agency or in the draft, and everyone's going to be like, well, there's two guys there now. No, it's Brian Thomas.
Well, even when Kirk was there, it was clear Brian Thomas was the alpha dog of. As well, but I'm just saying, we just need to collectively say it again. These wide receivers, when they go top of the draft, they're going to get used. And I know that Marvin Harrison, we can split hairs and say that he hasn't returned exactly the value that you paid for him, but he's still been good enough to where you're not mad about it. Like nobody's mad that they have him on their team. I don't think, unless you took him in the first round like a nutcase. But other than that,
the third and fourth round, well, I'd say more like fourth and fifth round are all gambles, right? Like you're looking at Malik Neighbors was around the fourth round projection. T. Higgins is there, Amari Cooper, Devontae Smith, all people who didn't live up to even their draft pick, but Neighbors did. He vaulted up the board up to whatever 20th on overall that he would be at the moment. I mean, there's shit. James Cook was free in drafts, that's unrelated. But like these wide receivers here, you're all throwing dart throws in general. I feel like everyone always says I'm doing this an educated guess, or I'm doing this because so and so is going to have a good year. Like in reality, they're all guesses. Why not throw a rookie in the mix? I mean, I personally am a rookie stack at the bottom, like Bucky Irving, which we'll get to here shortly, I believe. One of those guys. You always want to stash like young rookies. You never know what's going to happen, and do not drop them. I.e., me with Justin Jefferson his rookie year. That was really disappointing.
I forgot to mention McConkey, by the way. Also, he's 14 right now, but there has been like Xavier Worthy was a miss. He wasn't. He was a first round player. He's not returned value, but still, I just feel like when we do these rookie shows and people are just like, "Oh, you're talking about guys that are going to be good in the future," like not necessarily. Like we're talking about players that are going to help you win the very next season, and because you don't know their name does not mean they're not going to be awesome. And I always hate when somebody's like, "Who saw that coming?" And it's like, we do this whole podcast.
Who saw that coming? Go
I
back
know.
to June when we did this podcast.
I know. It's like, who could have seen McConkey coming? It's like, but we
He was the only. Okay,
whatever.
so McConkey makes no sense. Like, you have to see McConkey coming. There was no one in there. I mean,
Yeah,
there was nobody there. I mean, it had to have
none.
been somebody. So why not McConkey? That's my logic. Why
Right.
not?
And literally, he is playing the exact role that we said he was going to play. He's done almost everything that we've said he was going to do. I just, oh well. We just got to keep
Between
talking, Josh. That's all it is.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking. That's fine. But no, I will say, like, of the like top 10 drafted, let's say 6 running backs, because 2 are always in bad situations, i.e. Benson, and then Brooks obviously was injured for most of the year, so we can just scratch them out. Of the top 8, like 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, usually 3 of the 4 wide receivers are great of the top 4 that are drafted. Worthy was obviously the biggest bust here, and then in the running backs, like, these running backs are gonna hit. Like, one of them's gonna hit. Like, whether it's take over a job, whether it's they're just clearly the better option, or there's an injury. Those rookie running backs are always smart to have, especially in an ugly backfield. Like, we saw Rashad White. You know what? It's time. I just want to say, offensive points as a whole was right about Bucky Irving. That man
Yeah.
has had a monster year, and it's not even just because the last game. Like, the last game looked great, obviously, but all year long he's been getting 12 carries, and he's been putting up double-digit fantasy points. Like, he hasn't. This was the first time he has gotten more than 14 carries in a game, and he had 25 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. If that's a full workload, this man is running back 5 right now. Like, he looks phenomenal, and this was something that all 3 of us were like, yes, go get this guy. Rashad White, while he looked good and got all the numbers and everything, he didn't do it well. Like, what, 3.5 yards per carry? It just wasn't it. Like, we knew that there was something missing, and Bucky already coming through and got 5.5 rushing yards per carry. Like, it's amazing. This kid is going to be phenomenal, and I would love to see him as the actual lead back instead of just, well, we're still going to use Rashad White, but so what do we have and have?
Well, I
And then
mean, if they had wide receivers, I don't think they would use Rashad White as much. They just don't have enough players to
yeah, that's
fill
fair.
out their offense, so they have to use him just because they need bodies. But yeah, I mean, Bucky Irving is going to be really good for years to come here, and I just one of those guys we kind of saw coming. But before we move on, I just want to this was our rookie draft from our league that we've been doing for like 7 years. Marvin Harrison was taken first overall by you. I'd say he returned value. Malik Neighbors was number 2, return value. 4 was Roma Dunze. We'll get to the Bears, but I think eventually he will be fine. Xavier Worthy was 4. We can say that's kind of a bust so far. Caleb Williams was 5th. He's been fine. I mean, he's not a top quarterback, but he's usable. Brock Bowers was 6th. That obviously has been a
Oh,
major
dude,
bang.
amazing. Tight end 1, right? If I'm
Yeah,
not correct.
tight end 1 overall. Jonathan Brooks was after that. We don't know what we got there. It's kind of a DQ. Jaden Daniels hit. Next pick was McConkey hit. Next pick after that was Keon Coleman, kind of a bust. Brian Thomas
He's been
after that.
injured. He's been injured. It's tough to say bust, but
That's
I'd
fair.
say
And then
I'd say
Brian Thomas after that hit, and then Trey Benson after that, which incomplete because he's got James
I
Conner
feel like
hurt.
the only busts there were incompletes. Like, right, like Trey Benson. I'd say Keon Coleman's the closest to a bust out
Xavier
of those.
Worthy
But,
was a bust.
oh,
I mean,
sorry, Worthy. My
you
bad.
would
Did you
think
just skip
going to
over him, right?
Kansas City, but
Yeah. No, honestly, Mahomes throwing for like league low yardage this year is just wild. So never would have assumed that, but as everybody said, he apparently got a weird deep ball or something. I don't know. I don't know what it's about, but
yeah,
um,
I don't know, something off about him. But anyway, just saying, when we talk about this rookie stuff, we kind of know what we're talking about a little bit. Feels like we're getting better and better each year, to be honest. All right, well, I'll just get on to the next one that I was right about since we hit Bucky Irving right there. The last one I was right about was Garrett Wilson. He's been wide receiver 11 this year. That's not, I guess, as great as some people thought, but at the same time, when Garrett Wilson gets used correctly, he is amazing. And it's not his fault that Aaron Rodgers sucks. It's just not his fault that Aaron Rodgers sucks at football. and he's not going to be back next year, Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have yet another new quarterback, which is just like, that just sucks. But I'm just saying, everyone out there, don't panic sell Garrett Wilson this offseason. I just know people are going to do it because there's going to be a lot of analysts saying, like, well, he couldn't succeed this year, even though I think everybody can agree that's been a shit show. Like, just don't panic sell Garrett Wilson. He was and is going to be a good wide receiver for years to come. He just has to get into a system that makes sense.
The problem is Garrett Wilson managers this year might be missing the playoffs because the last few weeks have been so bad that not getting even 50 yards in a game is just wild to me, because this guy does have the talent clearly and he can go out there and make the plays, but just not getting the options. Although Devontae Adams has also and it's not Devontae Adams, right? Like Devontae Adams is out there getting 60 yards a game. Like, this is Aaron Rodgers. On any peak Aaron Rodgers 6 years ago with these two wide receivers, this is the best wide receiver cast he's ever had, arguably.
Yeah. It's a 12 games winner. Like,
yeah,
easy.
Yeah, tough to see for Garrett Wilson, honestly, because I mean, he was actually having pretty good success throughout the year, and then Devontae got here and it didn't really change anything. And then the last few weeks, just everything's gone wrong for the Jets. It's
spiraling out of control. People are turning on Breece Hall. Like, I know I make my jokes about him being like not as big as we thought, but he's not bad, and he's not this bad. Like, it's crazy that once they take the root of the problem out, everything else is going to be fine. The flowers are going to come out of the garden once you take whatever is the bad poisonous thing out of there, which is Aaron Rodgers. The rest of everything's going to be fine. They made a bad call with Aaron Rodgers. It happens.
And that's an issue, is we all just assumed Aaron Rodgers would be fine. I remember when we were doing our previews, I think we had the Jets winning the division. I'm pretty sure. And
I will tell you this, Josh, I'm never going to trust a 35-plus-year-old coming off an Achilles injury ever again.
I tried to tell you guys about Rodgers, and I actually steered clear of Jets players, or at least wide receivers. I do have Breece Hall in a couple leagues, but I stayed away from Garrett Wilson. I do have Devontae Adams, but he wasn't on the team. Stay away from London. It didn't feel right to me. And honestly, I guess Garrett Wilson and London have been fine. It's just, imagine what could have been with a better quarterback at this point. I mean, or one that's not aged out of the league at this point.
Oh, we're done. I'm going to have it tattooed on my forearm. Do not draft do not believe in 35-plus-year-old athletes coming off of an Achilles injury. It's going to be a long tattoo. Going to take a while to get really put in there, but it's going to be there, and I'm going to be pulling it up every single time.
Just goes up the whole arm.
Yeah. It might have
what does that say?
Lines.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
It's a fantasy football thing. Actually, it's just a football thing in general, but if any player gets an Achilles injury, I'm going to have to see that age before I believe that they're going to be back at 100%.
Not to hedge our bets here or whatever you'd call this, but everyone was wrong about the Jets. Every analyst, every player, every person, everyone who watched football just assumed the Jets were going to be better than this. I mean, there's no reason for this collapse other than the fact that Rodgers just might not be it anymore. I talked about this.
The Packers were the winners here. They saw this coming from a mile away.
Yeah, I said this in the beginning of the year too, and I was like, he looked bad the year he left Green Bay, and then he got injured, and then that's another year removed of playing football, and it was just, I was weary to say the least, but at the same time, I still assumed this team would be good enough to win games, and they have lost games in the most ridiculous fashion every time. They lost to the Bills by 3. They lost to the Patriots by 3. They lost to the Seahawks just recently by 5. They lost to the Colts by 1. They lost to the Broncos 10-9. It's just there's so many could have been wins in this, and it's just what could have been for this team, right?
Yeah. I think Robert Saleh needs another job. I don't think this was his fault. I really don't.
No,
and the defense has been worse since he left too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what do you do with that? I mean, it's clearly not. It hasn't changed. They're not coming back. This is the end for them. They got to figure out what to do with Rodgers. I assume his contract's up. I can't remember if he had to 2 or 3.
They're going to release him either way. I'm going to bet, if I had to guess, they're going to bench him at some point in the next 2 weeks.
I mean, at this point, what's the point?
Get hurt.
Yeah, what's the point in him even playing at this point?
Yeah, I honestly agree with that.
So anyway, here he is. Let's talk about another team, maybe player that everyone at least on this network podcast was, and that's Josh Allen and the Bills. Once again, like I said, this kind of goes hand in hand with the Jets. We had the Jets winning this division. Everyone had Josh Allen as QB1 on the year. We were like, that's crazy. Who is he going to throw to? The answer to that question is it doesn't matter. Josh Allen will figure it out. He's gonna make it work. They got Amari Cooper, and they're not even really using him. Mac Hollins is out here catching touchdowns left and right. Khalil Shakir is definitely the bright spot, but it's not like he's wide receiver 30 on the year. Kincaid's been injured for about a decade. It feels like there's no position one on this team other than James Cook and Josh Allen, and somehow Josh Allen is out here throwing for 280 yards. Like I don't know where the yards are going. Like it doesn't even make any sense to me.
No, it's been really weird, and like I think the lesson learned here is that like Josh Allen's just a good football player, and the team around him is not going to necessarily succeed. But like fantasy wise, not in real life. Real life, obviously, they're killing it. That was embarrassing what we had to watch in that football game. I know it was in the snow, but I mean, Jesus Christ, 49ers just like lost 2 running backs in that game. Like, woof. But I think we could just show and prove that Josh Allen's just a really good quarterback, man. And he doesn't really. It's going to be like the Pat Mahomes thing, where like Pat Mahomes is really good, but even he had Kelsey, so like that didn't even make sense.
No, yeah, because Pat Mahomes has always had a number one of something to throw to. It's been Kelsey, it's been Hill,
and Josh Allen does not have a one to throw to, and it doesn't matter clearly.
Yeah, and right now, I guess Mahomes is QB10 or something like that. But like, it's the people who draft.
I also thought the Bills' defense was going to be worse than it is, and they shredded all those guys. Well, maybe not you, but me thought like, oh, they're getting rid of good players because they can't pay them. Like that's very odd. No. They were old and didn't belong on the team. That's what the problem was. Like Poyer has been just okay with the Dolphins. Micah Hyde's he signed back to the Bills practice squad today, which was nuts. And then Tre'Davious White's just gone. Like, yeah.
Another thing that's
they
crazy.
Saw it coming.
Damar Hamlin, who died on the football field, in the most crude way possible, is having one of the best years of any safety out there. Like
he's been great.
I think he's like second on the team in tackles at this point, and just been all over the field. He's always on the ball. I'm happy to see him have a resurgence, honestly, especially after the scary shit he dealt with his rookie year. So,
yeah, revival of his career. What?
I was thinking like Call of Duty Zombies. Please grow. I have ray gun. Sorry, it was really dark
joke,
in my head.
But whatever.
It's dark in my head sometimes.
It is what it is.
Let's get to another person we were right about, and I believe this was a collective. I know it was at least me. Tyrone Tracy. This is another guy very similar to the Bucky Irving situation where it couldn't last, right? Like, I guess actually, I think this was just a me thing. Maybe Joe might have been on board. I know you weren't though, because you said
it was just you. My problem was not necessarily Tracy. My problem was with the Giants being horrible at football, and I thought even if they had Saquon Barkley and couldn't get the year he's having out of this, so I was like, well, what's Tyrone Tracy going to do? But I mean, lo and behold, he's been great.
I mean, Saquon was fine. He honestly, every year that he was fully healthy,
he's been with the Eagles. Like seeing what he is with the Eagles, he could have been an MVP candidate every year.
100%. And what part of Saquon? Like he even said it himself. He's like, dude, honestly, I was sad playing football there. Like I'm having fun. Like I'm enjoying this. This has been great. And yeah, of course you are. You're having a career here, not even for yourself, but for like anyone.
Well, and they're winning a lot. So I mean, it's like that. The winning just makes everything feel better.
It's got to help because it's like, yeah, I ran for 200 yards, but at what cost? We lost by a field goal because fucking Daniel Jones threw a pick 6 at the end. But no, honestly, just Tracy, I knew this wasn't sustainable. I knew Singletary, and maybe this was just me in my brain. Like I knew Singletary wasn't going to go in there and make a difference. Singletary is not the kind of guy who goes to a bad team and makes it better. He's a great complement to a good team, and I hope for the best, at least if whether he stays on this team or goes somewhere else, that he goes to a good team and can actually contribute. Because on the Texans last year, he was phenomenal. Clearly the best running back on the team. But at the same time, at the end of the day, he really only had 900 yards, 1,000 total. So it wasn't like blow away numbers. And that's why I was like, Singletary's always just kind of been okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a great running back. But Tracy had this explosion that I saw in some of the tape I was watching, and I was just like, this guy like could actually do something, because that's what you need on this team is you need a blow up play, you need a 40-yard play, you need a 50-yard touchdown, which by the way Saquon Barkley can do. I don't know if they know that. We should probably tell them.
Well, they thought building around a running back was bad, and it's like, well, look at all of the teams built around running backs now, and they're all doing pretty good.
It's pretty funny that the top three running backs that were signed over the offseason are the number 1, 2, and 3 running backs on rushing yards this year.
Yeah, pretty rough.
Weird.
I mean, shit, the Joe Mixon thing alone's just been.
Oh, that's like 4. We can add Joe Mixon in there. I was thinking,
yeah,
I was thinking Jacobs, Henry, and Saquon.
Oh yeah,
Mixon
okay,
as
I
well.
see what you're saying.
Oh yeah,
but like yeah, but like Joe Mixon went to Houston, and he's just. I mean, we haven't seen this Joe Mixon in 5 years probably.
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch gears there, and just let me tell you, I was wrong about Joe Mixon. That man is amazing. I don't think we need to cycle on it for much, but he's already done what Singletary did last year, and he's still got 5 games left or 4 games left. So
I think a lot of people, when they saw Mixon go there, they're just like, oh, it's just they're just getting to the next year, and it's like whatever. But I think this is always what Joe Mixon could have been, and the Bengals just didn't use him correctly.
Well, it's because the Bengals turned into a pass-heavy team when Burrow got there, right? And so the Texans, actually, speaking of, and I think this is probably what my brain was Stroud just threw for 5,000 yards last year. Why would they turn into a running team? And they're giving him 25 carries a game, and he's doing great with them. Yeah. They're not winning as many games as they should be, but they're going to win the division more than likely, make a run in the playoffs, and Mixon's going to be a big part of that. So,
yeah, I can't wait till we get to the who needs a running back thing afterwards, or when we do that later.
The tiers, I love that.
Yeah, because like this year has really, because I would have said going into the season, Houston was for sure going to take a running back in this draft. I don't know, and like even if they take one, like I don't know what that means. And same with the Giants, like they have Tracy. They're probably going to take one, but like I don't know if that means necessarily good things for him or for whoever that is. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, right. Honestly, I mean, I love Dameon Pierce, but at this point, and he did have a huge kick return recently. At this point, it's probably over for the Texans. They're probably going to move on from him. I don't know if he still has one more year left or not, but they could get rid of him and go sign a rookie.
He's just going to be an insurance back for.
He's a great running back. The worst part about it is when Mixon was out, he was injured as well. That was the worst part, which killed everything for him. Billy, I believe there's a couple people you were wrong about, man. We should probably talk about.
Yeah,
one of which specifically.
I'll just get to it and rip off the Band-Aid. The first one I was wrong about was DeVon Achane. He's been nothing short of amazing this entire season. I thought going in that there was going to be a little bit more of a mix of running backs used. I thought Mostert was going to be in there involved. I thought Jalen Wright was going to be getting some touches, which technically they have been. It's just DeVon Achane is just this Swiss Army knife weapon that they've been using for the whole season. I still don't know, Josh, going forward if it's going to work, because this team's not very good. And I know that like this year it did work for him fantasy wise, but even like they're not a good football team still. And I don't know if they got to change things up. I don't know if we had to sacrifice Tyreek Hill just for DeVon Achane's success. I don't know. Jonnu Smith's out there killing it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Waddle's a dead man walking, it feels like, at the wide receiver position. I don't know.
Although he just had a huge week 2 weeks ago. Like, it's wild.
I don't know what to take away from this. Like, I'm wrong, but I don't know why I'm wrong, you know? Like, I don't know why or how to take this going forward, because next year I think he's going to be overdrafted and he's not going to return what he's done this season. I don't know. I don't know what to take. I don't know what the lesson is here that I'm supposed to be learning. That's what I don't know.
I think the thing about Achane's going to be is that he's great right now, and he probably will continue to be, but I think he's a dangerous draft pick, right? Because they did just go draft a rookie, and him and Jalen Wright are going to be 2-2, and maybe it ends up a Kenneth Walker Charbonnet situation where Achane's the number one guy.
They could draft another one, like,
and they might
put another person in there.
I think Mostert at this point is, whether he's done with his career or if his contract's up, I don't see Mostert sticking around.
He's like 33. There's no way that.
Yeah,
eventually the wheels got to come off.
The thing is he's actually been okay this year. He just hasn't had that explosion like he did last year, and those 18
Right.
touchdowns that he had last year either. So Achane obviously took over those, but like, what's stopping this from becoming just a two-headed backfield, which can be dangerous as well? And drafting Achane in the first round, which is where at the moment it looks like he's going to be second
He's
round.
going to get drafted. He's going to be a first round draft pick next year. I just don't know what I'm supposed to be learning from this because I just don't see this happening again. And I don't think I was wrong. I mean I was, but like I don't think the idea of what I was thinking was wrong.
I think the thing about this is he's hit 20 rushing attempts one time. And like imagine what a full workload of this guy could look like, which sure could end up in an injury. He's a littler guy. But
Yeah,
like
I know that's the
what
other
if
thing,
but also littler guys have been playing football for years, man. You got Darren Sproleses and tinier guys. Well, actually,
I
that's
don't
probably the
think
tiniest
anybody
guy in the
ever
world.
thought Darren Sproles was going to be a running back one though for an entire season.
Well, let's not hate on my man Darren Sproles. All right,
He
let's
was
calm
good.
down.
I just don't think anybody trusted him to
He
be
was
a
more of a pass catcher
one.
anyway.
Yeah, and a return man.
But I'm just
That's
saying, like,
oh,
there's a
I don't know.
chance in this world where Achan actually is the number one fantasy player of all time next year, or all time. Sorry,
Yeah,
of next year. Sorry, of all time. So it's a little rough. But there's
I'm gonna
also
probably
this
just
huge chance that there's a
I'm
split.
gonna keep my mouth shut going in the draft next year. Like I'm just not gonna say anything, and then when he busts, we will have at the same time next season. We will be on this podcast, and I'm gonna be like, I feel like we could have seen that coming, right? Like I feel like we could have
For
probably seen
hot
that coming.
takes,
But I'm not
for
gonna
hot
say it.
takes,
But I'm not gonna say it.
you're just like, yeah, man. Everyone could have a good time. That's actually a
Yeah,
hot take right there, because fantasy football is one of the most aggravating, lovely things in the same time. I will say I actually had just overall fantasy experience this year, and I know this nobody cares, whatever. First part of the year was so rough. Like my 7 leagues, I was winning three apiece, and it was always different ones. So like I think I was like 3-5 in most of my leagues to start the year. There was a couple of outliers there, and then these last few weeks, I've just been winning all my leagues, and I'm gonna knock on wood but like I've been pulling like 6 out of 7, 4 out of 5, 3 out of 4. Like, you know what I mean? Redraft to Dynasty, whatever it is. Like it was all looking really good. And this ending part of the season makes me feel a lot better. But fantasy football can really be irritating, especially when you're in just one league and you're losing that league. Or if you're in 3 leagues and you're losing all 3 of them. Like it can be really
yeah,
irritating. But I also have been very lucky with the injury bug, although rip to McCaffrey.
yeah. That's been a tough one this year. All right, well, let's move on to the thing that we were collectively wrong about. I don't think we were wrong
No, no,
totally.
no, 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 no. You were wrong about. Me and Joe were right about.
Joe was on the same page as me. I'm talking about the Bears.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. My bad.
Let's just get the Bears conversation out of the way now. Collectively, I know that you're gonna try to skate your way out of this by saying that like, well, I never believed in them, but like, I think we didn't think it was going to be this bad. Like, I don't
No,
think collectively we thought this season that there was going to be only one usable bear the whole season.
yeah. I
I
thought
didn't
okay.
think that was
So
going to
from
happen.
fantasy perspective, 100% agree with you, and I will agree with you in general. We thought they would be better than this. I said that they were just going to miss the playoffs, which looks pretty accurate at the moment. But Joe had this, and I don't want to say he had hope, man. That's what sucks, dude. Like, and you get the number one quarterback overall, and it's not even his fault. Like that this team's bad, but you get the number one quarterback overall, and then this happens. Like it hurts. Like I can understand that, but from a fantasy perspective, DeAndre Swift is the only consistent player, and it hasn't been. It wasn't really at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, it's kind of tailing a little weirdly.
I'll say even he's RB20 right now. Like, not
Yeah.
probably. I mean, you probably drafted him that way, but like, not what we thought.
Yeah, no, it is rough. And I will say DJ Moore makes no sense to me. Like it really actually appears now in the most recent weeks that Keenan Allen's the favorite on the team. DJ Moore's finally getting a little bit of work too, but Keenan Allen is getting the important looks at all times now. Like I'm sitting here looking at him and sitting here getting 15 targets against Minnesota, like 32-year-old guy, and you got DJ Moore who can fly down the field, and you know, just weird. Just weird that the Bears like. And honestly, after this last game against Detroit, they looked great. Like obviously lost, and I'm looking forward to seeing like it looks like they're doing better as they're firing people, and that's a good sign, right? Like got rid of their offensive coordinator. They went out to Detroit, should have won the game. They fired their head coach because he lost the game for them. I don't know what happened with those last 30 seconds, and I never will, I guess. But coming into San Francisco, and a banged up San Francisco, if I might add, Caleb Williams is on a roll right now. This team could show something at the end, and they can play some spoiler to some other teams, or at least for seeding wise. Like,
Yeah.
they got some fun games coming up with Detroit again in a few weeks, and then Green Bay to finish the season out. I don't know, maybe could knock them down a peg, or could take a game against Detroit. Obviously, they just showed that they can beat Detroit. So yeah,
I just it's just over. Like, we never thought. I mean, Caleb Williams is QB 13. I can't say I that's not that bad. It's not startable, but it's not bad. Cole Kmet, I mean, tight end's been a shit show this year, so I get it with him.
No. Cole Kmet fell off. It's been weird. Like, it started out actually really well with some big plays and some consistent workload, and then he just got some zeros and threes and twos, and had one usable game in the last few weeks. Like, he's not usable at the moment, which he was to start the season. So it was really weird. Like, especially with tight end being weird. Like, Cole Kmet was a backup tight end on people's rosters, and technically still a tight end one, but not for them. That's like Kyle Pitts. You're not playing Kyle Pitts right now. Not in the games that it matters.
Right. Well, I don't know. I just thought they would be better than this, but that's just where we're at.
So okay. Let's stop the somber talk and what happens in the future, right? Like Robin Dunze, rookie wide receiver who has shown promise and has gotten some big target games. I mean, the touchdown's got to come, right? Like, once Keenan Allen's gone, like, he's the touchdown guy, I imagine.
Well, as soon as Caleb can take 5 seconds to read the field, which it's been getting slightly better for the O line. It's not great, but it's been a little bit better. I'm thank God they finally figured out that putting DeAndre Swift in there to chip a block does not make any sense
Doesn't
when
do
they pick
anything.
him up and carry him with him to Caleb. Like finally figured out, like, we know that's a bad idea. Don't do that. And they put Roshan in there, but then he got hurt. But like, they finally figured that out. Like, it's been a little bit better, a little bit slightly.
Who's their third running back now? Oh, never mind. Homer. I didn't know if after losing Khalil Herbert that they had anyone behind him, but yeah, no, I expect
basically no one.
I expect this team to draft a running back and so much offensive line
100%.
next year. And honestly, the defense is
O-line
fine.
and one running back.
You can get another edge rusher to go with Montez Sweat if they don't they have Carolina's pick still too?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say first rounder.
Not first pick in second round, but second round.
Oh, is it the second rounder? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that first pick, and it makes sense to be an offensive lineman, and I think people would assume that that's what's happening. If there is a guy there, the only other pick that they could do is someone to go along with Montez Sweat, because that would make this defense so much better. And it's already great, but there's no one else. There's no one scary on this defense other than Montez Sweat. And the other ones, they're fine, but it's just that's the one thing. They just need to beef up both the lines, get big guys in there.
They could use a Roquan Smith type guy on their team. I don't know if they could ever get one of those, but
yeah, there was a linebacker that was really good that played for. I think he plays for the Ravens.
He does play for the Ravens now.
Yeah,
but yeah, he would have been good on this team if that would have ever been possible.
Honestly, the linebacker is not the issue. Sadly,
it's not. But still,
but they replaced Roquan with two guys, and they've stayed healthy and they've played phenomenal ball. Honestly, T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, not as great, but still decent. Everyone was on the Jack Sanborn train. Has he played any of this year?
A little bit, but not
as
much as people thought. All right, I'll just get to the last one I'm wrong about, because I know you kind of were right, I was wrong, and I don't know why I was wrong, but that's Laporta for Detroit. They have the exact same offensive coach. They have everything being almost exactly the same, except for, I guess, Jameson Williams has been out there more. But I don't know why he is not being used like he was in previous last year. I thought going into this year he would be, one of the tight end one, and he's been not that at all, and he's not really been treated like that at all. And I don't really know why, because I thought after last season, same everything, and that worked. why not just run that back? But they haven't done that. Tim Patrick out there getting all of the stuff that Sam Laporta used to do, and I don't know why.
I
Why we're
love
doing
to
that?
see Tim every time Tim Patrick catches the ball, which you don't have him anywhere in fantasy, obviously, because like who does? But love to see it, man. Like Tim Patrick, Kendrick Bourne, Greg Ward. There's a couple other ones out there that were just like the emergency. Greg Dortch, those emergency fill-ins that have had such great times out there, and then just well, Tim Patrick got injured multiple times, so like
I've been
just love
liking the
seeing him.
Valdez
Yeah,
Scantling return in New Orleans. Like it's weird, but it's fun.
yeah, I don't get it either. I actually laughed at someone for playing him, and man caught a 60-yard touchdown. So
Yeah,
that man's never he could honestly he catches six more of those, and he can have the best year he's ever had in his career. Like,
yeah. Maybe Aaron Rodgers was the problem. Just
or
kidding.
three
But
more of them, honestly. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was the problem clearly. No, but
anyway,
the reason let
just
me get back to this
Laporta. I don't
Laporta.
know. I
So
don't know.
I would okay. So I want to say that I was right and wrong here. Like I knew that drafting the tight end one of the following year of a rookie tight end who is on a team that has too many mouths to feed is a bad idea. But I never would have envisioned it being this bad. Like the man had what 10 touchdowns last year, and then comes in and only has
Mm-hmm.
5 right now. And sure, he could actually come back in the end of the season, but we're never going to
And
forget
two
what
of them were
he felt
low
like
key. Two of them were bullshit. Last week for Thanksgiving, like he caught what 3 passes total,
for six
and
yards.
2 of them were touchdowns. And it's just like okay, that's usually the Brock Wright theft or like some random person that you've never heard, Craig Reynolds. Like it's usually that person stealing those touchdowns. It's Laporta stealing the touchdowns. Like I just can't believe this is where we're at.
Do you want to know what the difference is between this year and last year? And this is just a theory that I have. Last year, no one believed in the Lions, so they needed to prove it. So every game they were going out there and playing till the bell. This year, they're being a lot smarter about everything, which, I mean, it's not like they really got the injury bug at the end of the last year, but they're being smart. They're trying to keep everyone healthy, but they're utilizing the run game. Gibbs already has almost as many carries as he had last year. Like they basically didn't give him carries. Montgomery's actually slipping a bit, but will probably end up with the same amount of carries. They're going to run the ball probably like 100 more times this year. And that's the difference between last year and this year. And it feels weird because you're like, oh, Tim Patrick caught Laporta's ball or Jameson's involved. No, Laporta could still have been getting more. It was the beginning of that year. They just didn't use him. You had 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 targets. Like they just weren't throwing him the ball because they didn't need to. They were winning the game
Yeah.
already. And they haven't been in a whole lot of close games. Like, I mean, I know that Chicago was a close game, so that one doesn't really make a whole lot of sense not getting the targets. And he still isn't. So there's still this weird, mysterious factor of like, why not use him for what he was last year, where it was not just touchdowns, it was the play. And it's weird, but my logic is, or at least my theory is that they're running the games out and they're trying to finish the games to get to the next step. And Laporta is going to be fine in the future. And it's just he went to the ceiling, and then that ceiling wasn't attainable to stay consistent. And Brock Bowers just blew it wide open.
Well, and so this is what like, and me and Joe talked about this last week, and I just don't know. Should we be concerned about Bowers going into next season? Like, should we think like, why would you take him in the? Because people are going to take him in the second, third round next year, obviously,
I
right?
hope not.
And but you know that's going to happen. That's what happened with Laporta. Like, we're
Okay,
going to be
so
doing the same thing again.
I was having this discussion with someone the other day about how tight ends and quarterbacks are important to a certain extent, right? Like you can't draft the 10th best quarterback and you can't draft the 10th best tight end. You need to hit on one of them. You cannot draft a solid rest of your team though without hitting the running backs and wide receivers hard in the beginning, and that's just part of the draft. Like it's 3-3 in my opinion, and then mix in a quarterback or tight end early if you want. Like I need four. I need a 2 of one wide receiver, running back, choose whichever way you like drafting, and then one of the other before I even touch. So like fourth round's the earliest I'm drafting anything, and that's usually if someone slips there. Brock Bowers could do it again, but who knows who's the quarterback next year? And who knows if you get Jaden Daniels next year and it's going to be amazing, or you get, actually, I don't know. There's really not a bad rookie quarterback. Is there a bad rookie quarterback this year?
Not of the one starting, I don't
I
think.
was going to say all the starters are actually
Because
doing
even
pretty
Bo
good.
Nix has been good.
No, Bo Nix has been phenomenal of late,
Yeah.
and Drake May is not doing terrible. But like, who knows if you're going to get a Desmond Ritter or something? You know what I mean? Out there,
Yeah.
that's just like it's not it. So I don't know. It's tough to say like, hey man, Brock Bowers is it, and you know they're going to go get a wide receiver. You know they're going to boost up this team. Like this whole
Going
offense
to
is
go
going
get
to
a
be
running
revamped.
back that they're probably going to feature. Like,
So I think drafting him at his absolute ceiling, which is what he is right now, is 14 targets a game, is might not happen. Like I think you're more realistically looking at 6, 7, 8 targets a game, and then they also still have Mayer there. Like maybe he gets more involved depending on the next quarterback. So
yeah. Well, I just
yeah,
like I feel like we're seeing exactly this year what is going. It's going to happen again. I'm not going to be the guy to do that. I will draft Bowers if his price makes sense, but like probably won't do this again. Like I'm not going to be all up on Bowers, believing that he's going to be the tight end in the future until he does it for like 5 years, and then we'll be there. But like this Laporta thing, I was wrong, and that's okay. I'll eat that, but I'm not going to do it again. I can trust me there.
it's weird because in these last 2 years with these two multiple breakout tight ends, honestly, Kincaid and Trey McBride included in this, like you're seeing this like weird explosions year one, and tight ends usually don't hit until their second or third year. So seeing them hit on their first year is so wild.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very weird, and I don't think we have one next year that's going to be like that. There's a couple of these tight ends that I like coming out, but I don't think we're going to have a Bowers esque guy
I think a
come in
guy who
and
has a
do this
chance to
again.
break out next year as the number two is or second year is Jatavian Sanders, depending on what they
Oh,
do
for sure.
with this team. He looks good out there. Every time I see him catch the ball, he's looking great. I mean, he landed on his head after a catch last week, so didn't look
Yeah,
very good.
that was pretty rough. I do think the kid from Penn State, Tyler Warren, which we'll get into rookies more, but we did that 2 weeks ago, and Tyler Warren looks like a guy that could be that. But again, don't want to fall in love with him yet because need to see it first.
That's fair. And also, who knows how college and high school or college and NFL translate? It's always tough for people.
Yeah, for sure. But it was
Hmm.
fun. All right, well, that's all the guys I have listed. There is one more I wanted to talk about though before we get out of here,
Oh, bring it up.
and that was the collective wrongness we had, kind of, about Justin Jefferson. Where it was right was he is a little bit more limited with quarterback, but not really. So I guess I don't really know how to say this was wrong, but I think we all thought that it was going to take a step back with JJ McCarthy. Obviously, we haven't gotten to see that yet, but we thought with Sam Darnold for sure, like there's going to be some kind of step back here. Really hasn't been one. Like he's had a couple of games where they just blanketed him, but other than that, he's kind of held serve. Like he's done well.
I think you actually were the one who was on board with Jefferson's QB proof. So I think this was actually more of a
I just, if
me.
he was going to be the best wide receiver in the league and we were going to call him that, he would have to be QB proof. And I think he proved it. I think this is,
Yeah.
he
I
proved
think
he's
this was
QB
more of
proof.
just a prove it moment for him. Like, okay, Jefferson is what he is. Like, Kirk Cousins didn't prop him up either. I didn't want to hear that shit anymore. Um,
Can't
so,
say it
yeah,
now.
no.
If Sam Darnold can make him relevant still, anybody can,
His team is
for
still
sure.
an imposter team, and I will never believe it otherwise.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been good.
No. He's been phenomenal, honestly. And
Honestly, their whole team, other than they need a running back, which we'll get again, we're going to get to the running teams that need running backs. This team desperately needs a running back. Definitely
yeah,
needs one.
Aaron Jones has fumbled 5 times in the last 3 games. Like,
It's been
which is wild because this
brutal,
is actually usually when
brutal.
he's really good is during the cold. I mean, I know he played in Arizona last week, but like this is when he's like the bruiser. Like, oh, this is when Green Bay actually, I think, didn't even use him the beginning of the year last year, and then like just milked it at the end of the year.
Yeah, he's been brutal this year, but at the same time, they'll figure that out in the draft. But yeah, I felt like we needed to mention Jefferson because going into the season, everybody was a little bit down on him. Not that he fell to the second round or anything, but like nobody thought he was going to continue what he's been doing. I don't think
Also, in
we
that
ranked
same
him even a
vein,
little lower.
yeah, I think we did. I didn't have him as number one, which is a mistake. So, but I'm also higher on running backs. But I will say, just kind of in the same vein, Joe Burrow. We were all concerned about the hand. Clearly not an issue. The Bengals have their own issues, but it's
The
not Joe Burrow.
defense.
Yeah. Oh
The
yeah.
defense is an issue, and running back. Maybe we could have kept Joe Mixon. I know that you didn't want to pay him, and I get that because you got to pay people going forward. But
Chase Brown's been fine with a full workload, but I just don't think it's like you can't bank on this for the future. Like
they're going to have a running back in this draft for sure.
yeah, it seems very likely. I mean, Khalil Herbert didn't work out, and I don't know if Zach Moss has another year, if that was a 1 year contract, but yeah, tough. Actually, is he gonna be able to come back? I know he didn't have surgery.
I don't know,
Hmm,
but he's
curious.
not
Sorry.
going to next year. Not going to be on this team. I don't think.
No, yeah. Anyway, all right. Just want to float Joe Burrow out there because he's actually saved me in the league. So in our league,
Yeah. No, I was concerned about the hand, and I think there was a lot of people concerned about the hand, but it turns out the hand was just fine. There's
it,
no
it turns
big
out that
issue.
Joe Burrow's Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it did turn out that way.
Yep. Anyway, that's a good podcast, man. So we could just talk a little, fantasy receipts on ourselves. You know what I mean? We gotta keep those receipts. Make sure we can return the item. I
Yeah,
can't return it; it's expired. But
I'm not gonna lie. I feel a lot worse about the ones I got wrong than I do feel good about the ones I got right. I will say that.
yeah, I mean, something about publishing an article about something and being completely wrong about it. That hurts because that's out there in the multiverse right now, and everyone's just laughing at me. But I'll get over it. That's the thing.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we have a couple more dynasty topics going forward, and then the rookies are coming, my friend, and we are going to be discussing all of them very shortly. We dive right into mock draft season and all of our draft content, so I can't wait. But got a couple more dynasty topics we want to hit going forward um, to make things fun, Josh, because we like to have fun here on the Offensive Points podcast with the Possums.
We do fun things, but no, just last off signing off moment. Just enjoy these last few weeks of fantasy football. I know we still get fantasy playoff or fantasy playoffs, and then NFL playoffs and everything coming up, but
Mm-hmm.
fantasy football's coming to an end, man. And hopefully you're out there in the playoffs because that makes it a lot more fun. Hopefully you go out there and win your leagues, and hopefully you make the miracles happen. The Sunday night miracles, the Monday miracles. Hopefully you had Jerry Judy playing. I'm sure that was just fun to have. I'm sad that I didn't have him playing to win a game. But those Monday, Sunday night miracles are just always so fun. It just makes I can't say that I had a better work week than like after the Saquon Barkley Sunday night miracle. Like I came into work Monday and I was like, "Hey guys, do you guys have any extra work for me to do? Like I can do some
A
extra
little
stuff
pep
now."
in your step. A
Yeah.
little pep
Oh
in your
yeah.
step.
100%. Fantasy football. It can also be really aggravating as well. Obviously, as we all know. But we only got a few weeks left, so we got to go out there and enjoy them.
Speaking of aggravating, so I sent you the DraftKings lineup that I won $40 off of a $3 play in.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up finding out had I put that team into the
Oh no.
$20 Mega Millionaire contest, I would have won 200 grand. So
That's my problem with DraftKings is like
that's aggravating to see.
every time I win, I'm playing like a $1 one, a penny one, and like a $5 one or something, right? Because I'm like, whatever, it's
Well,
six.
the big contests were closed by the time I put that lineup in, so I don't feel bad in the fact that like had I known that I could have put it in one of the big contests, but I did see like the winner that won the like $1 million was at like 201 and the lineup I submitted was at 198 and I was like, "Oh no, this means I would
I
have won a
know.
lot of money." And yeah, I went and checked and yeah, that would have gotten 200 grand, but whatever.
Those are the moments, and actually going on to bets. Remember whenever I texted you week 4, and then you texted me, and we back and forth because I have a baby, and I told you to go, throw 20 on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I'd love to know what those odds are right now because it was like 20-1 Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and I was like, I just feel like I got to do this action. Everyone's not believing right now. I still believe. I think we were injured. Like it was just hilarious that they would have that kind of odds. I bet it's like 5-1 odds now or 10-1 odds. Like,
Yeah, it's probably not great. I was gonna pull it up real quick, but yeah,
yeah,
don't think you're gonna get.
no, I'm not even worried about it anymore. Maybe when we get closer, I'll do some prop bets or some playoff bets or something. But it was
We're
just, it
gonna
was
have
just
to
one of
we're
those.
gonna have to add bets into the show next year
Yeah.
because
Well, now that we
we're
can
gonna be
do
able
it,
to do it.
and
So
you know what? Honestly, there's gonna be probably a lot of live betting on the show next year in Missouri. So
Eagles are plus 475, so basically almost 5 to 1.
5-1, yeah,
4 to 1
classic.
for sure.
Yeah, that was 20-1 after week 4 on the bye, and I was like, "Just can you go hit that for me real quick?" And you're like, "Yeah, man, no, yeah, I am over there. Can you do it? What do you want?" And then I was like, "Yeah, man, still going?" You're like, "No, I'm gone."
Nobody will ever accuse you of being a good texter, but all right.
I never have been.
Well, that's all we got for this week. Joe will be back next week so we can have, the full offensive points podcast.
We've been planning this one
Josh,
for a while too. This next podcast is gonna be great.
Joe and Josh can hardly ever be on the same podcast at the same time. It's very confusing.
We're actually kind of in a fight right now. It's been really awkward. So we're doing shared custody of the podcast.
Well, that's good. You two are the busiest Wednesday people I've ever seen. There's nobody is this busy on Wednesdays other than you and Joe.
I have a baby, and I had a family in town for Thanksgiving. So I will say my bad because I didn't realize when they were coming.
100% knew that you didn't know that was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Like
didn't even think about it because I came up with this idea, 100%. And I was like, "This podcast is going to be amazing." And then I was like, "Yeah, man, can we not do that next week?" Actually, fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, tune in next week because I feel like that one's going to be a phenomenal one. So
for sure. All right, Josh, get us out of here.
Adios, amigos. Go win your leagues.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.